Welcome to the Myofascial Magic in Action podcast. My name's Joanne Avison, and I'm delighted to be joined by my colleague and co-founder, Paul Thornley. Hi, Paul. How are you?
Likewise, Joanne. It's great to see you. You're looking bright and fresh as a daisy. How the devil are you?
I'm great. It's the first day of spring, and it feels like it here in the UK. And I know you've got sunshine in Dubai, so we're both in a good
very,
mood.
very lucky. It's gorgeous here. I hope the UK is putting a spring in everybody's step, and you all make the most of the freshness that is around you at this time of the year.
It's just gorgeous.
Yeah.
So I want to say thank you, first of all, because our last podcast, which was on hands, and we didn't just talk about how important the myofascia of your hands is. We actually gave you a series of tips, tricks, and techniques that we have used for years, decades, in fact, in our practices and had really fabulous results from. Now, I just want to say thank you, because we had the most amazing feedback from you all. Really appreciate any of you who sent us little messages and emails and all the above. It was brilliant. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And the feedback we got was so super helpful to actually have things to do and apply in practice. Because I have a suspicion, Paul, that people out there are like us in that the theory, the science, people's ideas about what's the science of this and what's the science of that is one thing. And I'm not saying that's not important. But the thing that seems to make the biggest difference to everybody, and I really haven't come across an exception to this, is knowing what to do. Because the truth is, as practitioners, as movement teachers, we're in the classroom on our own with our students, with our clients, with our class, and we're making sure that we can make a difference at the time. And what we want to do is optimize, right?
I think it's 100% correct. We come from a long history of learning educational, of learning the theory and really in depth and getting to the nuts and bolts. And that's really important. I think it really helps people when everything works until it doesn't. It's important you understand the theory so you can track back and understand why your favorite technique or your favorite approach or your favorite movement is not being as successful as it might have been previous for you. And that's important. But I think the general population now want to do it. They want to just know how to get involved and experience and feel these changes in an otherwise stationary or static or too organized process.
Absolutely.
And what we create all the time, because it is really easy once you understand the theory, that we're privileged to have gone through that process and come up with a lot of these strategies and solutions, that the actual application of the theory in practice is true magic. Like these arms are like wands. They can do amazing things if you just know what their limitations and what their organization is going to allow you to go and explore and do.
Brilliant. And on that basis, we said, because of the questions that we got asked by the last one, and by the way, anybody that's missed the last one, go and watch the video on hand techniques, because we actually show you some really beautiful manual practices that you can do yourself or that you can teach your classes, and lots of little tips and tricks and props that you can use. So do make sure that you don't miss that episode, because it's super valuable. And it's not part of one of our workshops where you have to pay money to come and watch. It's completely free. So please do click on that link and go and enjoy the podcast about hands from Myofascial Magic in Action. So we're going to sort of creep up the body a little bit and look at the shoulders, because we both come across a lot of people with all sorts of shoulder issues. And you hear phrases like a frozen shoulder, or a shoulder where someone's got encapsulitis, or that's not what it's called. What's it called?
Adhesive capsulitis.
Adhesive. So we come across.
It's a mouth. It is a tongue twister. It's good. I think
Adhesive capsulitis.
I think they created these words on purpose just to test your ability to move your tongue around your head.
Seriously. Adhesive encapsulitis. No, not
encapsulitis.
There's no yes. Stop.
Keep this in. This is good stuff. This is invaluable.
This is Joe completely unable to describe something. Please, I'm a wordsmith.
Hey, you're an author, for Christ's sake. Get a grip of your tongue.
Adhesive capsulitis. Well, listen, the reason we know about it, right, because we spent so much time in the laboratory with John Sharkey, clinical anatomist, and we know from experience that so often the diagnosis of adhesive capsulitis is actually inaccurate. So we know about people popping that joint where it's dislocated, which actually compromises the quality of the joint, as I said, frozen shoulder. Another condition that people sometimes speak of is just shoulder stiffness, shoulder pain, and sometimes they sort of point vaguely at the deltoid and various other aspects of the shoulder myofascia and kind of blame the location
Mm.
for the pain. And this is something that we want to sort of uncouple a little bit in Myofascial Magic in Action, because your myofascia has a very specific characteristic that actually is welcomed by people who are genuinely curious. And that is that the site of pain may not be the cause, it may be the symptom that leads you to the cause. Now, we're not trying to turn ourselves all into, top class physios here or whatever your modality is, but we can make a difference to the shoulders by doing the work that we did in the hand session. And what we're going to look at now is some tips and tricks and techniques for helping the shoulder. Over to you, Paul. What's your first one?
Oh, very straightforward. But again, it's making sure people understand in a simplistic way of understanding what the actual architecture of a shoulder really is. And we
Mm.
often only see these two hands. But behind you is your second set. So imagine the scapula that we all have. We have two of them, and they rest on the rib cage behind you in the top corners. It's known as a scapula. It's like a triangular bone. Imagine they're another set of hands.
Love that.
Now, if hands, the ones you can see, grip and stiffen, how easy is it to move any part of your arm? Try it. Put your hands out in front of you and stiffen them, like really make them stiff, even close them. Do what you like, but now try and move your elbow. Try and wing it. Try and lift the arm. You'll feel a natural resistance in the whole limb.
Yeah, it feels a bit like robot dancing when you're trying deliberately to be stiffened so that you move like a robot, which is not our natural way, right?
Well, it's some people's way, and good for them. We all find our own way to have a preferred style of movement. However, if these hands become rigid and your shoulders do likewise behind you, then it's hard to breathe, it's hard to move, to change direction, to lift, carry, or support yourself freely. And you limit
Mhm.
yourself limiting by over creating rigidity or over stabilizing. And this word is a big word in the industry: stabilize your shoulder and your scapula. And it's often to bring them back and down and hold them there. Try doing that. So you bring your shoulders up, you bring them, circle them over yourself just very gently and push down and hold them there. Now just try to even take a breath. Notice how the ribs are completely restricted. It's very hard for them to expand. Try to even turn. You'll feel an instant resistance to turning in either
Mm.
direction just by subtly shrugging and holding them down. Likewise, if they come up and they stiffen here or forward, or in any of these scenarios where you're holding them stationary, they limit all movement. So the simplest thing to do straight away is have one hand out in a straight line and just feel that the hand in front of you and the hand behind you, that scapula, are always gliding in the same direction.
So I'm going to pause you there because I want to bring something in here, if I may. May I?
Sure.
Because I was working with somebody last night who couldn't, this quote unquote, she couldn't find her shoulder blades. She couldn't feel where they were. So we did this really simple thing. So do it with me and tell me, because you'll probably have a different take on it. We place the hands one on top of the other in front of
Yep.
us with the elbows out to the side.
Mm-hmm.
And then I said to her, very, very gently, take your elbows wide
Yep.
and see if you can feel your shoulder blades moving towards each other as if they were going to kiss.
Yep.
They're not going to. We don't want them to touch, but they're going to kiss.
Mm-hmm.
So think of it like that. And then I said, now I want you to bring your hands back really, really carefully and glide your hands. Don't touch them, but glide them
Mm-hmm.
over each other, bringing your elbows towards each other. And you are going to feel your shoulder blades wing. They're going to come out to the sides. And so I said, all I want you to do, bring your hands all the way round if you want to.
Mm-hmm.
You can feel your shoulder blades getting wider and wider apart. And then you bring your hands over each other and take your elbows towards each other at the back, and you'll feel your shoulder blades kissing. So all we're doing is, I call it winging and kissing because it's fun and it makes people smile. And ever so slowly and gradually, she began to feel
Yeah.
these beautiful sesamoid bones gliding over the tissue underneath them.
I think that's a really great example of how to introduce it to somebody who has no awareness of what's behind them and how to
Mm.
influence where they may or may not travel, and why it's important that they can experience that traveling effect rather than that
Gorgeous.
limiting effect. What they're really truly probably feeling is the pulling between the shoulder blades or between the chest. And it's that expanding and contracting sensation, very much like an accordion. You can feel like there's a sense of pulling and pushing. And then we get to explore how the actual bone is gliding on the rib cage. And that's what's important, is that we introduce it so it becomes useful to them, so that they explore the freedom and the potential to move better, because people are self-limiting their movement with the way they don't understand where their bones are, their own bones are, where they live every day. And often what they're asking them to perform and transform into with their movement choices, especially in exercise. So for instance, like the guys who like to do pectoral work, do lots of chest press and biceps, the very nature of that is going to transform that myofascial relationship into being very dominant, and it will increase the pressure here and increase the tension behind. So now doing that exercise will become very limited. They won't get
Yes.
gliding effect. They'll have to push the
Yes.
chest and exaggerate the movement. So taking
It's
your example, which is really gorgeous and delicious, it can also highlight where the limitation actually is when you're trying to make sure they pay attention to something they can't see.
brilliant. So the first thing we're doing then in these two different ways
Yep.
is literally waking ourselves up to what I call the fascia whispering
Hmm.
of the shoulder blade, because it really does need that range. And I just want to drop in a little piece here. If we spend all our time lifting children or things in and out of cars, or carrying shopping, or walking dogs with leads pulling us forward, or driving cars, or sitting at our computers for hours, we're always biasing those shoulder blades, because that's what we're really talking about, isn't it? I know it's part of the shoulder complex,
Mm.
but it's the shoulder blades or the scapulae that we are biasing them to winging, simply because we're always forward moving.
Well,
So
I think
what's
why that occurs though, isn't it? Because the arm, where it comes into this shoulder joint, is not in an enclosed capsule like the hip.
no, absolutely.
So it's almost like the entrance to space is already in front of you. So it's easy to access it. It feels more familiar and more accessible to bring them forward, and it's much more familiar. Whereas if you said you had to keep your shoulders back and down anyway, like you do in the military, it's very uncomfortable. It feels like it's going against the grain. So again, I would just want people to be aware that it is naturally biased to come forward, and it feels much more comfortable because there's space here to access that freedom of position.
And that's absolutely fine until we get to our more senior years, although we're seeing this, let's face it, in much younger people, because they spend so long at their desks sitting or driving cars or whatever, is that we get that bias where the body begins to lock in that forward position to maintain energetic metabolic
Yeah.
health, because your body's really intelligent and your fascia is a really intelligent system, and it's always trying to preserve energy. So what it does is says, okay, this is how you want me to be all the time. I'm going to save some metabolically expensive energy here, and I'm going to lock in this position. And that's fine until it becomes a frozen shoulder or a predisposition to an injury,
Well, you
right?
invite the shape you live within.
Yeah.
So if you encourage this to be the norm through training or through postural bias or environmental dictation, computer, car, labor,
Kids,
kid,
whatever,
ever,
be all good things. Yeah.
it,
Cooking, that's another one. Chefs. Oh my goodness. So, what do we do, Paul, to bring that into balance? Because you and I both know we deal with it every day in our practices. What do we do to optimize, but without the military requirement to hold the shoulders back, without over stabilizing something that should be flexible and
yep.
adaptable, and without forgetting about it? So it's really being trained in the sit and slouch gym, right?
Well, it's very easy. Move them in the most gorgeous way. And it's this simple. If you even look at my shoulder from a diagonal, it is clearly a round structure, but it is not a circle.
No.
It is a horseshoe scenario. Follow the horseshoe.
So you are rolling your shoulder slightly forward, slightly up, slightly back, and slightly down, but you're not circling
No,
it.
because circles create shearing. Then you start to turn into a horse, and your head will start to get into this undulation and motion. Things start to exaggerate. So you limit the motion to the shape of the arm and shoulder, and then allow it to explore how it can express that first.
So we're just sitting. So here's a key, by the way, everybody. Secret key. Sit up on your sitting bones. So your pubic bone is kind of leaning forward slightly and your tail is out behind you. You are not schlumped with your tail tucked under you, sitting on your coccyx. That's not where your coccyx belongs. Your sacrum is the roof of your pelvis. Trust me, it helps. Put your feet flat on the floor, or if you're standing, that's great. And if you're sitting, have your sitting bones and your pubic bone slightly forward so your tail is out behind you. And if you do that, you are already optimizing the spine position for the best movement. So having done that, I've got my feet flat on the floor. I've got my sitting bones in my chair. I'm feeling absolutely delicious.
Mhm.
You're saying to me, Paul, up, round, down,
Yeah. And
up,
then come back.
round, down in both directions, forward, up, back and down,
I would encourage
back.
people not to try to complete the circle.
Yeah, I've got it. No, that's really beautiful. So we're saying it's a horseshoe shape and we're going up and over the horseshoe and down the other side, then up
Yep.
the way we came, over the top and down. So we're just arcing the shoulder up and over and down, up and over and down, whether we're going forward to back or back to forward. Is that correct?
Correct. And then the middle of that is
Yeah.
the center where the shoulders should begin all movement. Because now you have to bear in mind,
Now you're spilling the secrets.
well, we tell a little bit, but it's like
Yeah.
this: if we want to avoid creating a transformation of shape into something that limits our ability to move, we must refine where we put it to begin with each time. That takes patience and dedication and awareness and diligence. Most people don't have the time to do that, or they don't have the patience to begin. It's inconvenient. But if you can, just find that initial horseshoe and then find the middle of that movement, wherever that is for you. And you might find that you have to physically put it there. But now all movement of your arm, your head, the movement of your torso can start to begin to move with much more ease. Whereas if you,
And glide.
well, the gliding is the name of the game. If you don't have gliding, you have sliding. Sliding invites friction, friction invites inflammation, inflammation limits and creates pathology in the long term. So sliding is the key. It's a really simple motion, but it shouldn't be fast, not big. It shouldn't elicit a movement of your head, your neck, or your ribs in particular. But that the way you invited people to sit up, lift it through their seat and through their feet, right through the crown of the head, and then just invite this horseshoe motion. And what
Just brilliant.
yeah, and once you've got that, you start to it becomes freer, and then try to keep it in that central position. And this is where mine are now. My hands are on my thighs, so I'm sort of supporting them slightly. But watch, if I relax completely, they look longer, but they slump and they fall to a convenient resting position.
And they rock forward as
They
well slightly.
can't
I
help
know
it.
mine do.
They can't help it because this is where the freedom is in front. This is where all the space is for the head of the humerus, the arm bone, to naturally fall in front because it's not held in position. It needs to be positioned, and the tissue must be able to have this lovely refined control, front, side, back, and internal. But that takes time and energy, and we can work on that at a later date. So just simply just get it to be in the center, and then see how that feels as you try to turn your head. I just had
Do you know what's
right.
so lovely about this, Paul, as we wrap this up today?
Yep.
I tried this because obviously we've been practicing and thinking about what we put into these podcasts because we do quite a lot of work to prepare for you guys,
Mhm.
just so you know. And I was doing it in my car and I thought, oh my goodness. And I had to shift my car seat position. I
Yep.
had to shuffle. And I sometimes have a ball in the car and the ball small of my back just so I can kind of be moving while I'm sitting. And I tell you, I was driving differently. I decided to sing. It was just like happy heart because it meant that there was absolutely no strain
Yeah.
around my breathing.
Well, you remove strain, you remove pain. Simple as that, right?
Yay!
If you remove unnecessary strain, it doesn't create unnecessary pain. Now, the pain can be a terrible thing all the time. Sometimes it's a good indicator that things are not quite tickety-boo. Pay attention to yourself. But these shoulders, front, back, side, and internal, they want to move. And the fact that we invite too much limitation to how they move is we're the architects of that disastrous outcome. But we can also be the heroes of it by doing these really simple positional uh, invitational sequences that allow you then to take your arm across and meet the other. So if I'll just show this before they leave. If I want to turn my body to any side, those very gliding actions that you introduced and the horseshoe circles that I introduced, and we combine the both. As I come across this way, I need this shoulder to go forward and come around, and I need the upper shoulder to go backwards. And as that happens, it pulls me. And if I go the other way, I need now this shoulder to pull backwards and glide behind me, like you did with your arm, and then this one to come forward, and you'll naturally rotate further. But if I try to keep them stationary, it becomes really rigid. Look how limited that is now. Whereas if I let it happen, whoosh, I come all the way around. Just by allowing those shoulder blades to go and find the direction of movement you need them to go, but it must be in opposition to each other. So you access that free elastic energy of that thoracic rib. It's easy.
Brilliant. So lots of reciprocal techniques there. You've got 3 or 4 techniques. I hope you love them.
Right.
And there's more where that came from. Take care, everybody. Have a great day. Don't forget to press the subscribe button so that you get the next episode in this sequence. And take care and write to us. We love your comments, so keep them coming.
Have fun.
Thank you.
Bye, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.